What's up, fellow lords of gaming? Welcome back to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Today we are jumping into skills, and this is going to be a interesting breakdown, mostly because, just so you guys don't know, it's probably not going to be as spicy because I don't really feel like there's a lot ugly. There's definitely good and there's definitely bad. So let's talk about how this is going to break down for this video. Basically, you've got 32 skills in total. You have 3 class skills, you have 1 basic attack and 1 ultimate. That's basically the way it comes out. The bad part about it, let's get that out the way right away, is the cost to unlock skills and the cost to upgrade skills. Each skill inside of this game basically has 15 levels inside of it. That means you have an increasing cost that continues to perpetuate itself. Like, so let's switch over to another class hero, for instance. So we'll switch over to another hero that I might actually end up maxing out, and that's going to be Captain America. And you can see the gold cost here and how expensive this is. Easier to show you guys on this than it is to show you on my Doctor Strange, because I knew he was going to be the character amongst them that I was going to just max all the way out anyway, so I did so. So let's take a look at Captain America then right now. So this is going to be the interesting part, right? So basically, when you're looking at the skills, there's going to be a set number of skills, and the question becomes, are the skills viable, and are all the classes viable? So essentially what I mean by that is, like, you can see Captain America here, he has hand-to-hand combat as a class, right? That's one of his classes inside there. Then you have like his class Vibranium Release, which is a cool mechanic actually for the character class. And you can see another class in here, Shield Absorption. That basically defines how the character plays out. You're basically looking at skills across those different classes to see how they really work, right? So the question is, first, let's get into the bad, right? So like you can see right here, my Captain America is at level 100 currently. But in terms of his skills being maxed out, even his top tier skills right here that I'm actually using, once I reach level 100, they still weren't maxed out. If you look at the upgrade cost, basically to go from 10 to 15. So let's upgrade Captain America's skills, Sentinel of Liberty. We've got 79,000, 86,000, 93,000, 100,000, and 107,000. So let's say 100,000 for each level after level 10. That's 500,000 gold that you're basically spending just to go from level 10 to level 15 per skill, right? That's crazy. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, you don't need to actually increase all the skills all the way up to 10 and 15 to complete at least level 100 with the characters. But let's take a look at something else with like Sentinel of Liberty. So if I wanted to unlock an individual class for that skill, or a new skill for that, I'd basically have to pay 30,000. So I'm basically paying for the class and the skill upgrades. It's kind of weird, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a little weird. It's a little off-putting. Like, for instance, in some games, MMOs, you basically have you do have some games that have a cost to upgrade skills, but they usually put mechanics that are buried within the game, meaning, like, you know, I have to collect skill points and things like this to invest in it. It's usually not that monetary resource that's used to earn new skills or to acquire variations of the skills or to upgrade them. It's a built-in mechanic that basically allows me, once I have the character at max, that I eventually end up with all the classes, all the skills, and all of their upgrades basically from playing through the game. Like, if you wanted to add a mechanic where skill points were to drop inside here, for instance, and say, okay, well, skill points will allow me to level up my character to go from here, that would have been a better thing, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I go from 1 to 100 and I get so many skill points per level, but they didn't do that in here. So the big question becomes, so that's the ugly, right? So then the big question then becomes, are all the skills viable, and are all the classes viable? So different heroes, different things. So if you're a Captain America character, for instance, these are the skills that I have equipped are probably going to be some of the most, what are you gonna say, like, I guess they would be the most used skills for that character. I would say these are going to be some of the top skills used for the character. Unbreakable Will, which is a Vibranium Release, Spearhead, which is Shield Absorption, Sentinel of Liberty, which is a Vibranium Release, and then Captain's Leadership is going to be a assist skill, and then we got a Shield Absorption. So, like, these are going to pretty much be the viable skills for that character. That's not to say that there aren't some variations on this. For instance, my man Halfson did some very good videos when the game first came out, where the entirety of X-Force and other players too from Sigma and so forth helped out in trying to determine, you know, best skills overall. And that's the problem though, is that for each character, you would suspect that there would be, how to best say this, usually for a character there's a meta that's defined, right? Meaning that everyone is going to be using pretty much the same skills. But there's usually also a anti-meta, meaning, you know, there's usually a way for you to build a character so that way you could counter that character. The problem inside this game is there doesn't feel like any counters to the character, if that makes any sense. Meaning, like, you know, yeah, you know, Captain America's biggest weakness is that he's a ground character, but like Captain America, Star-Lord, and Storm have been the subject of more buffs than any game should need for 3 characters that were the basic starting characters. I mean, these characters have received a buff almost every single update to fix, modify, or increase something because they just don't fit within the game space of this. Almost like the characters were incomplete, so to speak, right? Captain America is a lot of fucking fun to play inside PvE. That doesn't mean that each character shouldn't have their skills that are vested inside the different specific areas, right? Because they should. Now, the really cool thing, this is the good, is that they do give you the opportunity to play around with different skills, meaning I can come inside here. I have 3 different skill presets that I can set for my character. And the really cool thing that they added inside one of the updates is down here in the bottom, I can switch those skill presets on the fly as long as I'm not involved in combat, right? But here goes the bad part about that, right? Depending on skill sets, and for this I'm gonna have to switch back to Doctor Strange, but let me speak while I do that. Depending on the skill presets that you have per, you know, per character inside there, you're gonna have to change your specializations to kind of meet those needs. And your specializations, they don't quite have multiple presets, which is odd in and of itself. And it gets a little bit worse, and this is where it gets bad and maybe a little bit ugly. Because, like, for instance, say on my Doctor Strange, I go inside here and I've got my skill preset number 3, which is set up for an illusion build, right? An illusion magic build. I've got 3 illusion magic class skills equipped, and then I've got 2 mystic art skills equipped, so that way I can do damage, right? So we're building on an illusion build, and what I mean by that is that if you look at the builds inside here for specialization for Doctor Strange, for instance, some of his active traits are literally centered around you using illusion magic class. So like one of them here, reverberation, requires that I have 3 illusion magic class skills equipped, and that using those 3 illusion magic class skills will guarantee me a boost or a cooldown decrease of, you know, 25% at max upon equipping 3 illusion magic class. So that's freaking good, right? Because that means overall I'm already getting a 25% reduction in terms of the characters being used and their class and that magic class being equipped. So that's pretty good, and those skills that's inside there aren't so bad. But here goes the part where it gets bad. I have to remove one of my equipped active traits in order to change that out. So like you can see, I want this in here, and so maybe I want to switch out, you know, because I'm playing this way, maybe I want to switch out something that's going to help me out, you know, like I don't know which one of these I would necessarily remove from here because they're all pretty goddamn good. But let's say I remove max damage, right? Let's say that I just want to equip max damage rate, and I'm going to use the skill that was inside there, the reverberation, because that's going to help my cooldown skills a little bit more. Well, if I do that, right, and then let's say I equip that skill inside here, not only is it going to cost me gold, but it's also going to cost me some of my conversion fragments. Now, they are the, you know, regular shattered conversion fragments, but still, why is there a cost for something that I earn? And remember when we did my last video, this was a hard earn, right? Because getting your skills maxed or getting your skills leveled up is a hard earn in this game, especially if you're a free-to-play player, because once you get up to like levels 8 and 9 and 10, you're talking about having 15, you know, of these radiant convergiums, and you don't get but so many per run, 2 to 3 of them per raid run. And so unless you're spending crystals to repeat the raid runs, you're looking at
roughly a whole week of farming any one given, you know, skill inside here to get this all the way up, so that way you can do it just for one run and then have a 20% failure on it. So it kind of gets bad. Like, you know, one of the people inside one of the comments on that specialization video was like, well, that's the cool thing, because, you know, as a free-to-play player, you can fail and I can catch up. Yeah, but you don't understand, I still have more chances than you as a pay-to-play player. And the problem is that as a free-to-play player, I guess this is where you could say that specialization got ugly. It doesn't necessarily play in the skills, but as a pay-to-play player, I have more chances. As a free-to-play player, you're dealing with that where you're building up those skills over the course of time. The more times you fail, the more disillusioned with the specialization class you have, and probably the more less likely you are going to be to want to switch these things up. Like, I'm using a really terrible skill in here. Like, these two skills, Circular Shackles and Portables, not so bad when you look at the class, but Magic Explosion, it's decent, but it's a PvE related skill, and unfortunately there's not any other skills within inside this window that allow me to change it to an illusion magic class. So it's one of those weird things inside there. Now I could completely switch out 7 Rings of Ragador for something like Mirror Dimension and get that lockdown, but it's one of those things that you're playing with in terms of balance, right? Because it's cooldown and you're really trying to define what's good and what meta and how am I really going to affect gameplay. So it's one of those things, right? It would be nice if maybe inside the specialization they had three presets as well for that. Along with that, you know, so we talked about that link to specialization. Now I want to talk about the good, right? Because there are goods inside this game, and that's pretty much like looking at these animations overall. You can look at them, and I don't care who you are, you're not going to tell me that these animations playing through various games like Marvel titles across the landscape, that these abilities don't look cool, that these animations on every character, because I find every character to look extremely cool with their animations, and they feel really true to the Marvel universe concepts. Meaning, like, you know, when I look at Doctor Strange and I think about him casting his abilities, this feels like Doctor Strange casting his abilities. Now, I could complain about Doctor Strange and Storm having such slow ass cast times that it makes them literally targets in their animations, and that's what I mean by that is their animation cast times is pretty bad, but overall the skills are pretty damn good. You really can't complain about it. So the big thing that we have to look at going forward is what's viable in the meta, what's the anti-meta for the characters, how do all the class skills make it feel like each individual class actually plays like an individual class and not that you're mixing and matching, because at the moment these skills don't really feel like you could really go full bore on an illusion magic class skill, right? Or that you could go full bore on a touch of Ashanti class skill. You pretty much everyone is leaning towards the mystic arts because damage is king, and inside this character, for instance, the mystic arts is damage is king. Everybody's pretty much going to play Captain America as a defensive tank if they want to survive, whether they're in PvP or PvE, so you're going to have a defensive HP build inside those characters. So as you go down the line and list of characters, that's pretty much what you're looking at, is that there's one meta and it doesn't deviate but so much. So while you have 32 skills and a third of those skills span across each of the classes, you don't really have 32 skills. You pretty much have like a pool of about 10 that you can really pick and choose from, and it is what it is, you know what I mean? Like, you'll see most people are using pretty much the same skills. I would like to see them improve some of the skills in and of themselves, and you know, when they're doing these reworks, look at all of the character skills so that way they can understand why people aren't using these skills for specific reasons. Like for Doctor Strange, these long ass cooldown times and these long cast animations are really bad. Like, for instance, I'll give you the best thing. Gateway summoning is Gateway summoning is one of Doctor Strange's bread and butters, right? And you have 2 class skills in here that you'll see people typically running around. There is the Gate of Edge, which is a pretty nice skill inside here, and Gateway Launch, which is another skill. The only problem is that you really need to be able to determine which of these skills you need to use in which situations. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I use a class skill like this, you can see how long that animation takes to load up, and it's pretty clear what the fuck is happening when you cast cast that animation. So it's going to be really easy for a character to dodge, because if you look at the time for his windup, let's count that down. You pretty much get into 1, 2, 3, about 3 seconds cast time inside there for that skill to go off. His gateway launch skill 1, 2, it only has about 2 seconds, but the problem is with this skill is it literally leaves you vulnerable because you're stuck in place that whole entire time that skill is casting. And then we go portal bolt is a really good skill because you got about a 1, 2 animate, 3, 4, 5. No, that's like a 5, 6 second animation. I just realized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that one's bad because you see how long that shit took. So it might be good in PvE and in crowd situations, but this is not going to be something you want to use in Omega War or so forth like that. And then we've got gateway edge over here, which is a really cool looking skill, right? Really decent looking skill. 1, 2, 3, 4, but the skill doesn't start charging and hitting off till about 4 seconds into the skill. So you run into one of those big problems where it's like, okay, most players are going to dodge out of the area of those things. So it's like a little bit weird thing because you're balancing with those skills, and they really need to be able to look at the skills and say, why are people not using these skills and what's going on here? A lot of this depends on when they plan on introducing iframes. Like some characters already have them, some characters don't, and that's to their detriment largely inside PvP. When they're going to add things like ignore targeting, so that way when characters are in iframe, they, you know, you can still target them. When they're going to add, there's gonna like attack speed animation to like a stat attack speed, so that way you can speed up the animations of these things. That's kind of stuff that you look at that they've kind of already figured out inside Marvel Future Fight. You kind of hope that they figure it out in here. So overall though, I think the skills in themselves are pretty in the range of good to bad, but I think that there's definitely needs to be some work on those in terms of, you know, not looking at just the damage output that character skills have, but looking at overall how the skill plays out and its feasibility inside combat modes and so forth. The same thing with the classes, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This has been another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly. Once again, guys, I appreciate all the support and everything that you guys are doing to engage me in the channels and so forth like that. I'm sorry I wasn't around very much today. I really needed a break. I'm about to jump on some Marvel's Avengers here in a minute, and I'm gonna get grinding on that just because I'm looking to have some fun, and I have fun with that game regardless. All right, guys, until next time, peace.